Bye. New technologies have been developed based on this new element, primarily in power and electronics, and can now be accessed in Hub Tier 3. Milestone reached. Conveyor belts can now merge and split to increase the complexity and efficiency of your factory. The productivity display will help you measure and improve the productivity of individual buildings to aid with optimization. Additional samples are required for R&D to continue developing a defense-oriented blueprint. The creature has been named Phacocoirus plumiuscata, or fluffy-tailed hog. Milestone reached. Additional to an inventory expansion, you are now capable of removing foliage that consists primarily of wood. Milestone reached. You have unlocked several structures aimed to provide the first needed to build basic factory infrastructure. Additionally, the biofuel blueprint will ensure improved fuel consumption of biomass burners. Additionally, you can now build the space elevator, which is integral to your contribution to project assembly. R&D has repurposed a common engineering tool to assist you in your defense against the local wildlife and provided an extra equipment slot. The blueprint is now accessible in Hub Tier 3. The crystals on this slug can be harvested and converted into 2 power shards that function with current fixit technology. Several buildings would be capable of performing over 100% capacity, if infused. The derived blueprint is now accessible in Hub Tier 2.
You don't have to be a tech YouTuber to get sweet deals on the stuff you find online. You just need to install Honey. If you don't already know, Honey is a free browser extension that's available on Chrome, Firefox, Safari, just about everywhere. When you get to the checkout, Honey...
Welcome to this Satisfactory tutorial where I will explain how to optimize your factory to get the best efficiency and throughput for your ores and parts, all the way from the mines onto the belts, into the smelters and then into the constructors. Before I start, be aware that I have not unlocked any tier 5 or tier 6 technology in this factory, but I will reference the information found in the research menu for the relevant items in those tiers. Let's start with the mines, which is the foundation of your factory. When you find a mining node, like this one shown here, you will see the purity of the node indicated when hovering over it. Keep in mind that you need to remove this before you can actually place a miner there. So the three purities are either impure, normal, or pure. And this indicates how much ore you can mine from the node per minute, and by using an MK1 miner on a node, you will get 30 ore per minute from an impure node, 60 ore per minute from a normal node, and 120 ore per minute from a pure node. Handily enough, if you replace the MK1 miner with an MK2 miner, it's just a matter of doubling these numbers. So, using an MK2 miner, you will get 60 ore per minute from an impure node, 120 ore per minute from a normal node, and finally 240 ore per minute from a pure node. MK1 miners are unlocked with the Tier 0 technology Hub Upgrade 4, while the MK2 miners are unlocked with the Tier 4 technology Steel Production. Smelters, which you get from the Tier 0 technology, Hub Upgrade 1, are needed to smelt iron and copper ore into ingots, and these have a ratio of 1:1 in the amount of ore that they consume to the number of ingots that they output. The smelters will then smelt 30 ore into 30 ingots every minute, as you will see when I go over to the smelting line I have over there later on. The Tier 2 smelters are called foundries, and they are unlocked in the Tier 4 technology steel production, and foundries are used for alloying iron ore and coal into steel ingots, and foundries alloy 45 iron ore and 45 coal into 45 steel ingots every minute. Now, conveyor belts also come in different tiers. Each higher tier of conveyor belt moves more parts per minute than the previous tier, and you can see the number of parts it can move in the description of the belt when hovering over it in the construction menu. So the Tier 0 technology, Hub Upgrade 3, which unlocks the basic conveyor belt, can transport 60 items per minute. The MK2 belt, unlocked with the Tier 3 technology, Logistics, moves 120 items per minute. The MK3 belts, unlocked with the Tier 4 technology, Logistics MK3, moves to 3 belts. Logistics moves 120 items per minute. The MK3 belts, unlocked with the Tier 4 technology, Logistics MK3, moves 270 items per minute. And then the top tier that is available in the game currently, which I haven't unlocked, is the conveyor belt MK4, which is unlocked with the Tier 6 technology, Expanded Power Infrastructure, and they move 450 items per minute. Finally, we have the machines that actually manufacture the products that we use to construct various things in the world. The Tier 1 machine is the constructor, shown here. And this one is unlocked in the initial Hub Tier 0 research Hub Upgrade 2, and it can manufacture one part from another part. All the machines have a variable input consumption depending on what part you are producing. One example of this is that if you want to manufacture iron plates, the constructor will consume 30 iron ingots to manufacture 15 iron plates per minute, as opposed to if you want to manufacture iron rods. Then the ratio is 15 iron ingots to 15 iron rods per minute. As you can see, you can have two constructors manufacturing iron rods using one smelter, but only one constructor manufacturing iron plates using one smelter. The Tier 2 machine is the assembler, and they manufacture one part from two parts. The assemblers are unlocked by the Tier 2 technology part assembly, and they manufacture parts like rotors, stators, motors, and so forth. The Tier 3 machine, which I haven't unlocked, is the manufacturer, and they create one part from either 3 or 4 parts. The manufacturers are unlocked by the Tier 5 technology industrial manufacturing, and they manufacture parts like heavy modular frames, computers, and so forth. So, one of your main goals, especially in the early game, is to ensure that your factory runs efficiently and without waste. Thus, it is important to look at how many parts a machine requires per minute to produce X amount of parts from its output. A very handy tool for that, which I was tipped off on in our Discord, is the Satisfactory calculator, which I will link in the description of this tutorial. The calculator lets you specify the number of parts per minute you want to manufacture, or you can specify how many machines you want manufacturing the part, and it will give you an exact number of what you need in the chain, even with a nice flowchart option to show you the chain you need to build. So if you want to keep your main factory clean, I would also recommend that you use outposts for smelting, especially when you reach the higher tiers of the research tree, because some of the parts in the higher tiers require substantial amounts of metal ingots. Also keep in mind that smelters and foundries give off a smoke plume, which you can see there, and that smoke plume actually goes through the floor, so it's visible upstairs and can be slightly annoying in a multi-level factory. Now, let's go have a look at one of the manufacturing chains in this specific factory. As you can see, I have 5 assemblers. These are the Tier 2 machines, and they are all producing motors. On the left side here, you can see that they require 10 rotors and 10 stators per minute to output 5 motors per minute. Let's follow this chain backwards. So on the left here, you can see that I have copper smelters that are smelting copper ingots. So they are smelting copper ore into copper ingots. And the first smelter produces 30 ingots. The next one also produces 30 ingots. So these are tier 1 belts that goes into this merger here. And that means we have 60 iron ingots coming out, which is exactly what this tier 1 belt is capable of transporting. But then, after this merger, we have to use a tier 2 belt, as you can see, conveyor belt MK2, because now we are transporting more than 60 parts per minute. So from that point on, a tier 2 belt is needed. With the fourth smelter, we are now up to 120 ingots per minute, which is exactly what this belt is capable of sustaining. So let's just follow the belt up to the second level. And there you can see that I have built stacked conveyor poles, where I have the coal going over there to the steel smelting foundries. But also the copper ingots are being transported over to the assemblers, assemblers that are over there. So if you want more tips about the stacked conveyor poles and how you can use them efficiently, take a look at my main bus, small and stacked conveyor pole tutorial, which is in the same playlist as this one, and you will find a link to the playlist in the description of the video. So you can see that I'm belting in the copper and the steel ingots using a drive under bridge here, so that I can drive under here with one of my vehicles if I should so desire. And one side takes the copper ingots down into the left side of this assembly line, while the other belt takes steel ingots into this side of the assembly line. So on this side we are manufacturing wire from copper ingots. You can see 15 copper ingots will be turned into 45 wire per minute. On the other side we are producing steel pipes, which is ratio 1:1, 15 to 15 per minute. So this is the requirement for producing stators. So to get these parts to the assemblers over here that are set up to make stators, while retaining a driveway for the vehicles again, I am belting the parts over to the edge and then over to the beginning of the line of assemblers. Now, if we go over to the assemblers and have a look at one of the assemblers producing the stators, we can see that it takes 18 steel pipe per minute, so 3 per part, and 60 wire per minute, which is 10 per part, to produce 6 stators per minute. Which means that since we have 5 of these, we can do a quick calculation that tells us that we will need 90 steel pipes and 300 wire to create 30 stators per minute. From this calculation, we can actually see that there is an underproduction of both steel pipes and wire, and the manufacturing chain currently produces 75 steel pipes, not 90, and 225 wire, not 300 per minute. In other words, I do have to do some work here so that I can make this manufacturing chain more efficient. But that's also part of the point of this tutorial, to make you aware of the need for doing these calculations if you want to have or retain 100% efficiency on your machines. Here you can see that I am using mergers, just like I was doing down on the copper belts, to merge the output of the machines onto one belt, and then I transport the stators down one level to the final part of the manufacturing chain. So let's just go down here. There we go. The area you can see over here, that's the area of the factory that is producing rotors. The constructors that you can see over there are producing iron rods and screws, which are the parts that are used to produce rotors. But the same problem has occurred down here. I am underproducing rotors, just as I am underproducing stators upstairs, because I have 5 of these assemblers creating motors. And if we go back to these again, we can see that they each require 10 per minute, and we're only producing 30 of each. So I definitely have to do some work to ensure that this manufacturing chain actually works as intended. Now, when you're working with any machine that has 2 or more inputs, you should pay attention to the inputs on the backside. Which the more advanced the machine is, the more advanced your feeding mechanism to the machine will have to be, as these inputs are close to one another, as you can see here. Creative usage of stacked belts and splitters will be needed to ensure proper feeding of the machines, and I am still in the process of refining optimal setups in terms of both efficiency and space usage, while also trying to obtain an aesthetically pleasing view of the more advanced machines. I will revisit this topic in a later tutorial, and the splitter setups that you see here are very inefficient, because the first splitter will split half-half, which means that the further down you come on the belt, the less parts you get, as long as this machine is working. So the last machine in this belt is not just underfed because of lack of rotors and stators, but it's also underfed. Even if I had the full output, it would be underfed, because as long as this machine and the next machine and so forth is working, the last one would get very few of the parts and would not work at 100% efficiency. Another topic that I also want to go into in a different tutorial is over and underclocking. As you can see here, there is a clock speed indicator here. It's kind of complicated. You need power slugs to create these power shards, but I will just briefly mention that clocking machines can be useful, especially at the beginning of the game. If you have the slugs and the first slug you get of each color, the colors of them, you can use them to overclock your power plants, which means that you don't have to build as many of them. And you can also underclock any other machine to reduce either the output of parts per minute, or you can adjust the power usage per craft cycle. So this can be very useful before you get coal power up and running, but for all the machines that I've shown in this tutorial, everything is running at 100%, so I haven't done any under or overclocking here. And with that, I just want to remind you that Satisfactory, like most production line games, is a game where you should never be afraid to tear down something that you've built and rebuild it. Creating a factory that you feel is perfect to your specific style of building is not something that you should expect to happen in just one single game session. When you make a mistake, learn from it, learn from others, watch tutorials and let's plays, and with each new playthrough you'll see that your building style and your factory efficiency will improve every time you build a new factory. Thank you so much for joining me, and I'll see you all next time.
Hey there, it's Josh. Welcome back to Let's Game It Out. Oh my god, it's time for more Satisfactory. Oh, how I missed you, Factory with no rules, limits, or logic. Satisfactory is a game about making efficient machines. Or in my case, just find new and inventive ways to torture the game. First, we built a factory that was actually kinda normal, until I realized you could make it look like this. And then I made it look like this, and I realized the frame rate gets worse, which excites me. And then we tested those limits by building a tornado out of conveyor belts, and it's actually kinda pretty. Just don't look directly at it, unless you like slideshows. Then I saw this empty valley and I thought, you know what this could use? A conveyor belt weave. Not to be outbeaten, we went back over to Beltnado here and turned it into a full-fledged cocoon. After that, we moved on to other interests, like messing with these trucks here, only to realize that if you throw them all in a pit like this, they become sentient and try to escape. And I thought we might be done. And then those crazy developers just kept updating the game, so I kept trying out their new stuff, like this beautiful train station that you can even custom name. And boy, did I custom name it. That's when I realized we could send the them through the earth and straight to hell. And then at the tail end of the last episode, we realized one last thing left to do: nuclear power. Oh, and also, today's video is sponsored by NordVPN, but I'll talk about that a little bit later in the video. Oh, and before we head to our first destination, check this out. The game actually runs better now, and this blows my mind. My god, the performance increase is amazing. This thing doesn't destroy my computer anymore. Like, I can run up to it, I can bask in its majesty. It is a brave new world. So what are we gonna do today? Play around with nuclear power, of course. We built this guy at the end of last episode, and our first step to nuclear victory is we need to go mine some uranium and shove it into this thing. Last episode we used our little locator guide here to find uranium, which was a little ways away, but the bigger hurdle is this stuff will kill you if you get too close to it, and that's why we brought this lovely thing, a hazmat suit. Strap it on, makes you look super cool. Now we're ready to go face the elements. You know what? Let's do it with style in our beautiful, sexy car. Now I feel like I took a wrong turn somewhere, but I'm gonna have faith that this is the right way. Well, everything's green. I feel like that's sort of a good sign. I think we're going to the right place. Yep, we definitely are. I see little bits of ore here. Oh, hello, cat friends. These are supposed to be spiders in the game, but for everybody's benefit, I turned on the arachnophobia mode, which turns them into these creepy cat heads, which I think we can all agree is a little worse than just spiders. Anyway, we'll just take care of them in short order, no big deal. Oh, you want some too, do you? Let's get this nightmare over with. Okay, where was I? Putting down our beautiful mining drill, that's what. Never has anything in a cave looked so majestic. So right now, this thing doesn't have any power, which honestly is for the better, because if this thing is pulling out uranium while we have it set up, we're just gonna be taking on lots of radiation. Oh, did I mention to find this, I had to go through a waterfall? It's true, I wandered around for like an hour before I figured out it's back here. Okay, finally ran the conveyor belt all the way home. We're gonna stage our uranium over here. You may recognize this little place over here. In a previous video, this is where I had all of my trucks, you know, the ones that turned into a sentient species, and then I had to put them down, otherwise the game would never run again. So we're gonna stage everything here because we can't just send the uranium over raw. We gotta make two things first: uranium cells and electromagnetic control rods. Uranium cells are the uranium itself as well as concrete, and the electromagnetic rods are stators and AI limiters. Easy enough. Let's make a couple assemblers. We'll just place one here and also just kind of over there. We're also gonna send our uranium into this guy over here, which, by the way, we haven't connected the power to that thing yet, so let's do that now. Okay, here we go. So now that we've connected the power, all we have to do is wait for the drill to do its thing and bring the uranium to us. While we wait, let me tell you about the sponsor for this video, and that would be NordVPN. I don't get a chance to talk about this very much in my videos, but I actually take online privacy extremely seriously. And as part of my arsenal of things I do to stay safe online, I've always used a VPN. VPN stands for Virtual Private Network. Think of it as like a hazmat suit for your data. And in this case, that hazmat suit allows you to stay anonymous online, encrypts your data, and keeps your location private. NordVPN also has, at the time of this video, over 5,000 servers located across 59 countries, and they're adding more servers all the time. They also have Android and iOS apps, so you can use it on your mobile devices as well. So if you want to join me in protecting yourselves online, head on over to nordvpn.com/gameitout or use the link in the description, and you can get 70% off a 3-year plan. And if you use Game It Out at checkout, not only does it help them know I sent you there, you'll also get an additional month free. So again, that's nordvpn.com/gameitout, and don't forget to here it is. For the record, it took about 4 minutes, and it still hurts to get near, right? Oh boy, does it ever. It's kind of a shame. It's so pretty to look at. It's like a bunch of slimers just on a conveyor belt. So this guy over here is going to be for our uranium cells. The uranium we obviously have, and right in front of us at the center of our base is some concrete. Okay, and there's the concrete as I slowly die to radiation poisoning. Now this thing's doing the magic of making uranium cells, and for our control rods, gotta grab them stators and AI limiters. All right, AI limiters for days, and these are the stators. Thankfully, I have pretty much all of these materials being built somewhere in my base, and I just need to find them and route them over here. Now that those two things are underway, we have to turn to our old friend the manufacturer, which we're gonna build down here for kind of no reason. And in this thing, we're gonna build nuclear fuel rods, which is what can finally go inside the nuclear reactors. My favorite part about this? Very radioactive. That's what I like to hear. First, we'll send these uranium cells down there. Okay, that's 1 down and 2 down. So that connects our 2 nuclear things. To finish off the trifecta, we just need to get ourselves some of these encased industrial beams, which I just happen to know where there's a lot of them. It's like all the stuff I built previously was all building up to this. Also known as, thank God my production is so imbalanced, I just have extra random crap everywhere. See if we can't work quickly here. I seem to be taking on a not insignificant amount of radiation poisoning. And there we go. And we'll just send these beauties right over there. And since I've already got my medical inhaler out, this calls for a celebration puff. Now that I've taken on 10 generations worth of radiation sickness, I'm just gonna stare off into space for a bit and let my empire just grow. Okay, I think we're in pretty good shape now. So many beautiful fuel rods. Now comes the fun part, where I route fuel rods all over the map and wonder if I'm gonna melt my face off. Almost there. Finally, after all that, the fuel rods are in the thingamajig. The machine looks to be working, and boy is it a thing of beauty. Now the only thing left to do is hook it up to power. I thought that'd be more exciting. Ooh, but that smoke is. My God, look at that jump. Our capacity for power was 4,400, and then we brought the power plant online, and now it's 6,900. That is quite the leap. So here's the other thing that happens with nuclear power. We get delicious, beautiful waste. Extremely radioactive. And what are we gonna do with that nuclear waste? Well, build a bunch of conveyor belts that zigzags it through this waterfall, of course. And I'm using the slow conveyor belts because I want all that radiation goodness to get all in the water supply. And then once its slow journey is complete, all that tasty waste goes into this bin for future generations to worry about. Okay, first nuclear power plant done. And while I'm satisfied we could get that first one off the ground, I feel like there's so much more we could be doing. This gives me an idea. I can't help but think being able to look at the cocoon again is a blessing in disguise. So for the first time in a long time, we're going back in. It's been so long since I was able to climb in this thing. Here we are in the belly of the beast. These of course being our 3 oil refineries. I'm tempted to go back and change all of these Mark 1 conveyor belts to Mark 5, but even I hurt imagining how long that would take. We're now here at the halfway point. You can tell because the iron rods stop and the oil begins, so I don't actually think there's an opening. I think I have to make one to get out. Nope, wait, found my opening. I'll just fly my way up there. Hopefully I don't run out of fuel for my jetpack. It's a long way down. And here we are at the very top. I know I've said it a couple of times, but I cannot stress how bizarre it is to be able to look at this thing and the frame rate maintains. Look at the dumpster that is my factory setup. God. Like at this point, even I can't tell what goes where. So I keep forgetting that there's like stairs and walkways, and it would be really useful because we do need to find a way to get up there fast. But no one likes taking stairs, so I found a better way to get up there. It's called a bunch of bounce pads all over the place. Here, let me show you what I mean. It starts with this bounce pad right over here. So we just jump on this conveyor belt, which will launch us in at the right angle. It'll take us over to this bad boy, and it'll just start bouncing us all the way up to the top. And the nice thing is it's all set up so I don't have to do anything, and I can just bask and look at our factories, really just enjoy the ride. Oh shit. I'm not even moving anything, it's just bouncing me for me. So I can just look around at the nice surroundings, really take in all the beautiful scenery. Are you f***ing serious? Or I can just hold on for dear life and hope the whole thing works. Honestly, it works about 10% of the time. It's the best. But it gets you close to the top of the cocoon, so beggars can't be choosers. Oh, here we are coming in for a landing. Bounce off this backboard. Here comes the final bounce. I can't think of a better way to get to the top of this spiral. Okay, so you might be asking yourself, what's the plan? I mean, if you look out there, you can already see our nuclear power plant dumping nuclear waste down below. So here's what we're gonna do. I know this seems like sacrilege, but we're gonna cut the head off of the beast. And I know it seems scary, but I promise you there's a reason for everything. Remember how the top of this thing, because of the red tint, looked kind of like a warhead? Well, now we're really putting that nuclear touch on the top of it. Yeah, okay, that's looking better. It's got that kind of gaudy Vegas quality to it. Also, why is my nuclear reactor already showing signs of wear and tear? I haven't even hooked it up yet. And of course, we want it to look classy, right? Like, look at all the crap already floating around this thing. That majestic crown up there deserves the finest curb appeal. So first, let's make sure to loop this stuff through everything so that everything is nicely irradiated. Okay, yeah, this'll do. B+ at best. So we're gonna take these fuel rods and we're gonna feed them in through the bottom of the cocoon. That way the entire thing can maintain its visual splendor. Okay, there we go. Everything is properly irradiated. Now all we need to do is connect it to the power grid. Thankfully, because of the bounce pads floating in the air over here, there's already a bunch of power lines just ready for me to connect to. God, look at that burst in power right there. Now we gotta deal with my favorite thing, nuclear waste. The waste is all gonna come out of right here. And as is my custom, we're only going to use the finest, slowest belts we can. Now all we need to do is just run this belt full of byproduct goodness all the way down to the edge of these barrels. And just to make it a tad more convenient, I'm going to send the nuclear waste down in one of these splitters using the power of conveyor lift technology. Thank God these things can just keep going lower and lower and lower. Look at that, you can just have it hand delivered right to the ground. You know what I think I'm going to do with all this nuclear stuff? I'm just going to add a merger to where these iron rods are coming out, and I'm just gonna mix these in with the iron rods. Oh yeah, I'm sure this won't be a problem at all. Well, there it goes. Join your friends. You know, though, with 2 power plants, I still feel like we're not producing enough nuclear waste. Ah, much better. There's like 50 power plants back there. But this actually poses a new problem. While our power capacity is amazing, our consumption is, conservative at best. And in order for these things to start chewing through those fuel rods, we actually have to get our power consumption up, otherwise they're just gonna sit here idly. Which is great if you're trying to build an efficient factory. It's not so great if you want your main export to be nuclear waste. And God, do we want more of these barrels. And to do that, we're gonna turn to our old friend, train technology. And the reason for that is because trains generate electricity, and I can set them to go forever. So test one station here, and another station here. Let's put a train down and do a quick test. As you can see, firing this thing up, it goes around and around and around, generating not nearly as much as I would like, but hey, it's generating something. Something else interesting we can do is we can connect trains together, and while each train in and of itself doesn't take up more power to function like this, they all have to fire up their engines to move. That's a nice little power push for not doing a whole lot, and I'll know this power output matters. If I see barrels piling up here, I know it's working. Now I'm interested to see if we can generate some power faster. Test number 2, in which case we see if adding some rails that go up increases how much power it takes, and then also I gave it a little more distance, mostly because I don't know how to use train tracks very well. Let's play conductor and see how it goes. So as always, when you first start it out, it does take a lot of power. Downhill does a little bit less for the power. Once the train gets moving, it takes up less because it's already got that speed going. So here's my current running theory. Maximum trains combined with maximum train stations means tons of stopping and starting, meaning tons of power generated. You know, I have an idea how we can test this, but I gotta build something real fast. So hang on, it'll just take a second. Okay, here's test number whatever this is. I sure hope it goes okay. It's essentially one gigantic loop that goes through all of these tracks. It's not particularly pretty or elegant. Hey, the whole point is just to generate electricity. Okay, now we've added the trains. In case you're curious, this is 188 trains, all connected together, taking up the entire track start to finish. And it's all automated, so the trains will just loop through this disaster forever. There are 23 total stations they go through, aptly named Pulp, before looping back around. You know what pains me most about this? It's not that it's actually semi-orderly, although that also pains me. It's how freaking slow everything's going. I didn't realize that would be the thing that drives me nuts. But enough talk, how's it doing for our power? At an idle state, about 6,000, not too bad. When the trains start up again, it hits a nice healthy 12,000. That's still a far cry from maxing out our potential with 100,000. But before I go nuts and start laying out more track, let's at least see if we're exporting any of the good stuff now. And by that, of course, I mean nuclear waste. Yeah, this'll do. This'll do nicely. That's a lot of barrels. I think this is working out quite well. So normally the goal would be to try to figure out where to put this stuff so it doesn't do any harm. But why would you want to hide something so majestic? Now me, I look at my base and I see something that's missing, and I think this has a chance to be a real showpiece. Once again, I'll be back in a hot minute. Well, that's looking just swell. Oh yeah, feels good. This is looking great. So one might look at this and get the impression that I covered the entirety of my base in nuclear waste. And you'd be right. Up to and definitely including the weave, which if I do say so myself is never looked better. It's kind of like this is a waste disposal site, except above ground, and advertising its presence. Oh my god, the radiation is so bad. If I die and I have to respawn in, I just die instantly. I've made the base so hostile I can't even be here anymore. And also the spaghetti of my base is just completely out of control now. But damn, that nuclear waste looks so vibrant in the moonlight. So I feel like this is how this base was gonna end up. Nuclear waste everywhere, power plants as far as the eyes can see, our conveyor NATO that turned into a conveyor cocoon now has a warhead aiming up to the heavens. And thank God I can use these bounce pads to just bask in it all while I fly off. Oh, and thank my lucky stars, the frame rate's gotten kind of bad again. I'd like to thank NordVPN again for sponsoring this video. And don't forget, if you head on over to nordvpn.com/gameitout, you can get 70% off their 3-year plans. And don't forget to put in Game It Out at checkout as well to get another month free. So I think that's gonna do it for this episode. Hope you had fun, I know I did. I'm gonna go check and see if I'm growing a third arm from all this radiation, and I'll see you next time.
So when my tech startup needed a new logo, I went to Fiverr and got one. It's simple. Just search, click.
Hey there, this is Josh. Welcome back to Let's Game It Out. We're checking out Flotsam today, just recently hit early access. Developers, thank you for a key. In Flotsam, we hit the open water and get to build a beautiful colony out of trash. So let's see if we can't turn that into something